All right. People are showing up now. I guess they realized they had to get a registration. So I'll give it exactly 1 minute. I'm just going to start. This video will be available on YouTube, our YouTube channel as well. And we'll make a presentation available to you here. People here will be able to ask questions. Those on YouTube, you could put comments in. I'd really appreciate it. Ask a question. We'll get back to you later. And Brianna's here. Brianna Bennett's here. All right. We're going to start with that because I know she's on travel right now. All right. Let me go ahead and start by introducing the team, our team here today. Let me stop that share here so I can see everybody. All right, good. All right, let's go ahead and introduce our team here. First of all, welcome. Hi, Sister Pamela. Sister Pamela Jones, do you hear me?
Hi.
Hi there. All right. And Ariel's here. Hi, Ariel.
Hello.
And Brandy, Sister Brandy's here. World's most structured parent I've seen this year. Boy.
Wow, I really appreciate that. I really do. That means a lot.
I'm glad you do, because structured is actually a compliment.
I from you, Deacon Wilson, I know it is. You only say what you mean. So I appreciate that.
And Sister Tanya, who's one of my most dead. Sister Tanya, how long you been following me in these meetings and everything? You've been around a while, Sister Tanya.
Probably about 5 years, or thereabout.
I think so. That's my community partner there. That's what I'm gonna call her. And Sister Jones is here, and the others will be around. Some will catch us on YouTube. I want to introduce you all to our team for this season. Had them all come today. You all know Quinn. Say hi, Quinn. Quinn's a graduate. Some of y'all know her already. That's right. She's a graduate of CSU Long Beach Communications major. And, did you? Oh, you went there. Oh, man. Billy Salisbury. She's a graduate of my alma mater, George Washington. Woo woo!
Hi, everyone.
Got you back there, Sister Brandy. That's Bailey. She's a graduate from GW. She's going to be studying some pre-med. Got herself a women's studies degree, a little bit of science here and there. And she's with the team right now. She's tremendous. I also have with me, I think Christina's with me. Hey, Christina.
Hey.
Christina, how long you been with me?
I think like around 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah, some of these people need to, be checked out to make sure why they're doing it. Then I got somebody that just came along. It's really complicated how we found her. It's too complicated. I'll explain it some other time, Sister Brianna, but she's on travel, so I want to get her in and out real quick. This is Brianna Bennett. She's an admissions expert in the community, and she's going to be working with me. She has some expertise with applications. Say hello, Sister Brianna. Say a couple of words if you want.
Hi, everybody. So nice to meet you. I actually am in the UC Berkeley College Admissions and Career Planning Certificate Program. So I'm really happy to be involved and to work with you and your students. So thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah, she's going to take a lot of the pressure off of me and some of my team, so I don't drive them crazy in the area of reviewing these applications, particularly private school. But I suspect she's going to help me and advise me too on situations that we really appreciate her. I want to make sure I introduce her. I'll bring her back too. I'm going to have her do a couple of presentations later. She just doesn't know it yet. It's the first time she's hearing that. So I do that, right, Christina? That's the first time you hear it when I talk to the parents. All right. So I want to thank you, Sister Brianna. I hope you have a safe trip, by the way.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Lots to cover, but it's the kind of things that go quick. But I think you'll get a lot out of this, parents. Actually,
Can I just ask one question really quickly?
Absolutely.
I want to. Do we need our children to be with us, or is it okay if it's just us?
It can be parents only for this. It's always optional. I would love them to hear it, but I know a lot of them work. This is good stuff. They'll understand why I'm doing the things I do later. It's not essential, but it can only help. It won't hurt. Okay.
Thank you.
That's the best answer. All right, this is our third meeting. Actually, when you look at our meetings, it's really our second, but it's third because a lot of the things I covered, I just put on our YouTube channel that I cover in meeting two. So you want to look at our YouTube channel. You want to go over there and friend us. You can go to our website, click the right arrow, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to us so you get those videos. We have a lot of short videos that I put out that I think will be very important. One of which on my mind, well, I'll talk about them as I get to them. Perhaps if Quinn can, she could put the links up to them. Then when you see the video, you should go on there and make sure you subscribe. Okay. All right. Let's talk about, we covered this before, but I want to hit you quickly with the college process in several different ways, in ways that you won't really ever forget about it. But here's the way we see it at West A. This is a repeat view graph for some of you, but you'll get the idea what I'm doing different this time. California state universities. So we have out-of-state public universities. We have California state universities. We have early action private colleges and Protestant Christian colleges. We have universities of California and regular period private college. That's the way I see it. You go to some publications or some places online, there's only two types of schools. I don't think so. Each one of these is different in the way it admits and the way you apply and how the financial aid is done. So I carry these are my categories here. You'll notice I don't carry HBCUs as a category because they're really either going to be private colleges or out-of-state public universities. They really act like either one of those. So schools like Howard and Hampton and Spelman and Morehouse are just considered by me to be private colleges, which I cover here and here. And then schools like Virginia State and Florida A&M, those are out-of-state public universities, all right, Norfolk State, et cetera. Okay, those schools, I like to start thinking about applications around the 15th of September. So we're not too far away from thinking about out-of-state public universities. California state universities are going to be the 1st to the 31st. Although the deadline is November 30th, we like to see those applications go in during October. And we'll show you how we can help to get those in, like I said in the run-up to this meeting. Early action private colleges, we think you should be doing those the 1st to the 15th, early action private and Protestant Christian colleges. So if you're applying to a Christian college, the best time to apply is those first 2 weeks of November. We'll have more to say about that, our next meeting, about this block right here, actually early action, and probably a lot more to say. Universities of California, in fact, in 2 weeks is our next meeting. I have something to say about that later. Universities of California, we think you should apply November 1st to 30th. In fact, you cannot apply till November 1st. Even if you work on the application, work on the essays, you can't deliver it to November 1st, okay? Regular period private colleges are December 1st to 31st. Then over here, these three types of colleges here are the ones that have the essay development. And we do one-on-one and small group youth support for essays. We do it one-on-one mostly these days. If you want to have us help your student with essays, we meet with the student and start them on the essay. I have a lot more to say about that during the presentation. I'll show you a view graph on it later. And of course, we also do application delivery support for all of these. That's the way we see the college admission process with our program support, EEP, Education Enrichment Program Support. Again, if you have questions, you want to use the chat or raise your hand. One of my team will stop me when they see either one of those things occur. Or you can just open up your mic and just start talking. That's cool. It's a smaller meeting here, although others may be viewing live. The college admissions requirements versus the application process. All right, here we go. We have application submission. It goes to a college admission office, and the student's either accepted, rejected, or waitlisted. They may need the high school transcript. Remember, CSU and UC do not require transcripts. Recommendations. The SAT, it's in dashed lines because it's not required by CSU and UC in many private schools. Some are optional, and we'll talk about that too later. And SAT prep is question marks because It depends on whether you're taking the SAT. If you're taking our prep now or have taken it, we've already figured out that it was required for you, your student, to take that test. Hold on, I'm not, just a minute, okay? I am wanting to check something out. Hold on. Make sure I'm in the right file here. That's what I gotta make sure of. And we're not. Stand by. 1 second. I knew that would happen. There we go.
So Quinn, what you sent to us in the chat is what we can use to access this. Is that correct?
This is the right presentation here. I'm sorry. Yeah, she's going to have this one right here. Okay. It was my mistake, not hers.
So that'll be that link. As long as we have that link, I could just use it to go back to what you talked about, right?
Right. You can get the presentation. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's try this for application delivery process. How's this? You'll have a grade self-report in some cases where you'll have to tell the grades that you had in your classes yourself. There'll be essays in some cases, teacher recommendations, transcripts, and application delivery. Now, how does it all relate together? Okay. UC, which is in red, there will be a grade self-report. There will be essays, and there's an application delivery. That's the simple flow of the UC admissions process. Okay. We'll tell how we help with these in just a minute. CSU and most out-of-state public universities, OOS is out-of-state public. Most of those. There's a grade self-report, right? It's in green, and then you just deliver the application.
Do you intend on sharing this? Because we don't see anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Stand by. Yeah, thanks for telling me. Sorry. I did want to share it. You won't miss one thing. We'll edit it out of the regular video, but here we go. Let's go back. Okay. All right. I think you can see it now. So there's a grade self-report, first of all. And a self-report means that on the application, they ask you to tell the grades that you got in the course. Okay. Essays, teacher recommendations, transcripts, and application delivery. Now, how does all that play together in the different kinds of applications? On UC, which is in red, the red arrow is UC, you're going to have essays and you're going to deliver the application. Notice there's no teacher recommendations for UC. I'll say that again. There's no teacher recommendations on UC. It's extremely selective, no SAT score. You notice there's no SAT on UC, which is where they're having the most trouble deciding who gets in because they're very selective, yet they have very little to look at. CSU and most out-of-state public universities is here. I think you should be seeing that down bottom there. Christina, can you see it? Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So the green arrow is going to be CSU, and those go directly to the application delivery. There's no essay, nor is there a teacher recommendation on CSU, which is one of the reasons I believe that CSUs is another important, two other reasons, there should be a CSU or two or three or four on every college list, just in case, because usually there's one you can get into. We'll talk about that, a lot about that. Selective private colleges is the black arrow. Yes, go ahead, Sister Brandy.
So Bradley and I were talking, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So
good.
Does test blindness mean that the UCs or CSUs won't even take a look at the SATs?
So I'm going to agree with that, though I don't hear that term used a lot. I hear blindness used with income, and we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, they won't even look at it. It's against the law.
Wow.
I'm going to be very clear on that.
That's what Bradley said.
They're not even looking at it. So if you took SAT prep, it's for some other reason that I cleared it. There's some other reason why I said it was a good idea. And it could be, we have a view graph on that. You'll see in a minute. So in selective private colleges, there are essays, oftentimes up to 3 or 4, sometimes as little as 1, but there's going to be an essay. Typically, it's the Common App essay. We'll talk about that later. Teacher recommendations are a part of the selective private college process. transcripts are a part of the process. So I don't know, people have said that UC has the most they're looking for. It's not true. It's selective private colleges that are looking for the most to deliver the application. Okay, any questions on, I guess we got the one there. That was a good question. Any other questions? All right, and then of course the SAT, it's for selective private colleges. That actually really seals the answer on the question I just gave. There are some out-of-state public universities, a few that look at the SAT also, a few. Remember, I include optional because most people don't have perfect grades. They need the SAT to help. And that's why I still have an SAT prep, because of selective private colleges. Again, if there are any questions, do just what Sister Brandy did and just let us know.
I have a
All right,
question.
go right ahead.
What do you consider to be grades that are non-appealing, that they don't have to try and petition for? Are you saying the GPA should be a 3.75 or better, or?
Right. I actually have a chart on that. I'll talk about it now. The SAT score high these days is 3.7 or above. So if a student unweighted, if the unweighted GPA is 3.7 or above, I would take a chance at not doing the SAT. It's worth the risk. But if it's 3.6, 3.5, 3.4, you're going to need SAT help for a selective private college. And not to mention, you'll need it to try to afford the college, right? Because they're looking for SAT in. So pretty much on a selective private college, you're going to be looking at the SAT, and certainly on HBCUs, you're going to be looking at having to do the SAT no matter what anybody tells you, optional or otherwise. I hope that helped. Let's talk about delivery support that we give for CSU. You'll see why you'll be interested in this later. I debated whether this graph should come up later, but I think it should be up now. I'll remind you of it. When you're doing the self-report, it's a unique thing of Cal State University, also UC, but in a different kind of way. You'll see later. Then you make the application deliver. We talked about that. So how do we support and help? Well, there's the student applicant. We're going to send them a data form to complete. And I think Christina emailed out the link to a data form this week, or either it's waiting to go out. Which is that, Christina?
Hello.
Christina?
Yes, Deacon.
You
said the email?
Is the application data form? Look at the screen there. I mentioned the application data form for CSU.
Right.
We were going to send that out.
Yeah, but parents that.
Oh, your sound is going in and out. Say it again.
We're already to the.
All right, that's okay, Christina. We'll talk about it then. Why don't you tell Quinn by text, because your sound is going in and out. Okay, so there's a data form. I think we'll find we either send it out or it's almost out. We send it to all of our distribution for class of 2023. And that's what it's about. If you want us to help with the CSU application, the best way we can help is to deliver the application for you from your data form. Because the self-report on CSU is very much non-user friendly. It's easy to make mistakes, and especially if you have college classes, or if you've got a D or an F in a course, you made it up, or there's something else anywhere unusual about it. So we offer that self-reporting support that we do. We fill it out for you, but we need your data form to do it. And that's why we're going to email out, or we've already emailed out the data form. Well, I'll find out which that is in just a minute.
Deacon, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Better?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I was able to put it in my headphones. But anyways, that data form that you're talking about,
Mhm.
I have sent that out to parents that already had a college readiness meeting with you.
That's right. Yes.
So it's just a handful of people that got that email. So, and maybe by next week, I will send that out to everyone else. We'll go through that, and then everyone should have that data form for them to complete.
And once they complete that form, we'll see it. right? And
Right.
then we'll go ahead and look it over and make sure and get a transcript from it. If we don't have it, we'll check it and audit it and get ready to do the self-report, because we're going to do that for you when October 1st rolls around. Okay.
That's right.
All right. That's a key thing we do, because we don't believe we got tired of students applying to CSU, they're not getting in because the form wasn't right. The CSU knows that. We're great friends. And they say, come on, Deacon Wilson, give us a break. No. We need to get it right. And that's the best way for us. Now, here is what we expect your student to do down here. We're going to give them training on how to follow up on the application. That's down here, you see. That's something that we're going to be doing. So as part of this process here. Okay, and that leads to application delivery. The support costs for that, for the entire process, the monitoring all the way to May 1st is $55. We ask to support our team and our staff. If there's a problem paying that, of course, we'll work with you. You know that. But that's our entire CSU support process. Let's look at UC and selective private colleges. UC and selective private colleges. So we have a self-report that's for UC, and you see the essays go up. And selective private colleges, as you know, don't have a grade self-report. We'll talk about that in 1 second. And the application is delivered. There are teacher recommendations, transcripts. It's delivered here. We will help with delivery oversight of the transcripts, because that's a frequently flawed process. The school delivers the transcripts sometimes you do, so you have to address the envelope right. Sometimes it comes from a third party. You got to direct them right. We saw enough problems with that we'll give oversight for the delivery of transcripts. Whenever you see our header there, that's where we're involved, right? We'll do delivery oversight down here to make sure the application delivered right. We'll even check it over. The selective private colleges, of course, we do SAT prep. That's something we do offer. And on the essay support, we do UC and Common App essay support for the startup and the support of actually doing the essay. Right now, we're only about, I would say 20, 25% utilized, which is about where we are this time of year. We just don't want to see a lot of people come in the fall when there's stress on everybody. It'd be good to do a few of those now. And I know your schools have said they're going to handle it this summer, but you're going to have to think about that. Does handle it mean give them a workshop and walk away? Or does it mean to really help them through the process like we're going to do? In fact, Quinn, that's one video, if you can look for it, on how we do essay support. You might remember that video. We'll put a link for that up later in the presentation here. Just keep watching the chat. You could bring that video up and then minimize and look at it later. Again, and all of our videos are out there on our channel, and they're organized by playlists too, if you want to start looking at them. So that's what we do. We'll help with this support down here for the essays. We're doing that now with maybe 9 or 10, no, maybe a little more than that, students. So the UC is the one with the grade self-report. Private colleges are not. That self-report also may require some oversight. We'll be glad to help. By the way, the self-report for UC is way easier to do. Most students can understand it than is the CSU one. But it doesn't matter, because we'll do application review over here for that. The cost will vary. It could be as low as $40 or $50, depending on what you need. It could be much more depending on how many schools you have. So that's why that college readiness meeting is so important, to figure out what kind of support is really needed for your student. And again, budget's an issue. We'll work with you on that, and sometimes even reduce the cost for you a lot of times, depending on what your situation is. It's just important that the students get the support they need. Here it is in table form, if you need to look at it that way, for UC, CSU, and Common App, which are the selective private colleges. The essays, the transcripts. Notice there's no transcript for CSU or UC. Please notice it's a grade self-report. Sometimes they request the transcript, but if you submit a good application, they won't request it. You might wonder, well, how do they know? Well, they don't know until July when they request your transcript. And you could think you're going, if there's a mistake, they'll just disenroll you. So it's very important that this is done correctly, the self-report. So there's self-reports on CSU and UC, no recommendations. Research institutes, somebody asked me that, I thought I would put it here. UCs are research institutions, CSUs are not. So they're still very different schools, even though neither one of them requires the SAT. And you'll see the common application here, and these private schools are over here as well. All right. And then that's where I presented this. You got the dates there, right? So I will go right through this. How about some direct cost comparisons in the price of colleges, which is a little unfair because we don't know what the financial aid award is. But as I explained to you in the meeting, the first meeting we had, there is a way to tell how much you're going to pay. And I'll talk about that later in the presentation, maybe the next view chart. USC is right now for 2022, 76,000. Harvard 73, Duke, LMU, Laverne, Howard, University of Arizona. These are some of our more requested schools and their costs, okay? Morehouse and Spelman are $56,000 now. Here's some of our college best buys, and I'll explain why they are a good buy. And you may not want any of these colleges, but I would feel guilty if I didn't tell you what I knew about controlling costs. And we do have students at all of these schools that are just not paying much at all for college. Boise State, we have the West A scholarships. We get 4 a year from Boise. Didn't even use them all last year. It turns out to be a $17,000 or $18,000 scholarship for a school that's only about $30,000. So that's a significant award. It lowers the cost below a CSU. And that's renewable each year for a 2.0 GPA. The GPA requires only 3.2. They had to go to their assembly to get that approved because for students that go to Boise State, it's 3.6. Look at that, in Idaho, excuse me. So I had to get that approved because they want to have our students. They love our students, work closely with them for a while. I have 18 students that are at Boise State right now after the graduations we had. We have 4 that are going in from last year. Grand Canyon University has very high merit scholarships, easy to attain at 3.5. It's a very good buy. George Washington University has what I call an EEP favorable rating of our students. Helps them to get an alumni award, makes it very affordable. Lehigh University is middle class favorable. They have favorable rates for middle class families up to $100,000 a year. Carnegie Mellon, you'll find that they're that way as well. Seattle Pacific is EEP favorable. And any CSU or UC, we'll show you our favorite ones later. Any of those are going to be affordable. You can go to a local CSU for almost nothing out of pocket. It's not totally nothing. I'll show you that later. Okay. Some Western public universities like Nevada, Reno, University of Mexico, Northern Arizona, these schools are also going to be very, very affordable. And like I say, if you don't really want any of these schools, that's fine. And just know that I'm presenting these so I can feel a little that I'm telling you everything I know about the best college buys that are out there, how to avoid a lot of parent loan debt and a lot of parent debt anyway for college.
What about Yale? What's Yale looking like? Like Harvard?
So Yale and Harvard are what we call I call it the Ivy League scholarship because they're easy to figure out. Typically, it's the 1/3 rule we talked about last week. So you're going to pay $20,000 to $35,000 a year for an Ivy League school, regardless of your grades. Now, if you are in a situation where the family income is below $50,000, you probably will pay way lower than that. That's the best way to understand Ivy League. And since this administration took over, they got away from they were under a lot of pressure last administration to reduce their costs. And they were actually in court for collusion in their costs. But the current administration dropped the charges very quietly about a year ago. So I'm pretty sure they're back to where they were now with costs. By the way, that comment I just made is interesting because there are many of you here, I don't know your politics, that probably, couldn't stand the last president, but he was way better for my middle class families in college than is the current administration. I just thought I'd bring that up. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's what I heard you say. That was very clear. It was really clear.
I have other examples here. I'll leave it alone, but it just goes to show you that it just goes to show you that sometimes we get what we want. I feel so bad for my parents when they're trying to figure out costs, and I see the pressure they were under before. They were in court, 20 cases. The federal government was suing them, right? Some important education enrichment program recommendations about the schools on your list. Never pick only by who has your major. Like you go, I got to make my school list. I'm going to find who has my major first. Don't do that, because really it's all about career. And one, your major probably will change. Your career may not, right? Career and passion are not the same. Remember that. So all that stuff you got to remember when you're picking only by a major. Try not to pick by just the name of the college. Try not to do that. Legacy is not a thing as much anymore at colleges, okay? Unless your relatives are, I'm not being cynical here. I'm actually telling the truth. Unless they're in a high federal or local government position, Congress, Senate, et cetera, or are or will be heavy givers to the college. That's called backdoor admission. Backdoor admissions are not illegal. And in fact, there's a video we have out there which says it's what it says is a movie you should see with your student. It talks about the college admissions scandal, in my opinion, on it. And there's a great Netflix about that. You might want to look at that, about backdoor admissions. Actually, it's about side door admissions, which are illegal. Okay, so these are just some tips. Private colleges are way more expensive than public. It's not even, it used to be close before, but they're way more expensive now than public universities. Way more. It's not even close anymore. That's why when people say they're going to try to pass free college, I always know it's public universities, right? That they're talking about. They can't be talking about private, right? You saw those prices earlier. Be real about your college possibilities. Your GPA is what it is. And I can't believe I didn't put my famous statement down here. Students, I want you to know, you get the school you earn and want, not the one you want. That's the first time in your life you're confronted with not being able to get everything you have that you want. There's even a song about it. You can't have everything you want. You have to earn it, and that's the tricky part of all this. Let's talk about the SAT test and prep plan. Students should take the August 27th SAT if they have not taken it at all, or if he or she needs it. Now, that's really important if they need it, so we'll get to that. Take it a second time in October or November, if applicable. If your score isn't what it needs to be, you can take it again. We will do review prep for people who took SAT prep for the March or the May test, May or June tests. We will offer review prep for October and possibly November. I think we'll probably do it for both. We will offer SAT prep for all tests, open enrollment, in person, online by request. We'll have an additional cost. We haven't totally put together how we're going to do that. I'm waiting to hear from Princeton on how much they're going to charge me for online usage. That's something that just came up, Christina, in case you're wondering. Okay. Ed just got back to me on that. It's going to be $100 to $260 depending on the high school, and there are limited spots. We are not going to run classes anymore above 12 students in person. We're just not going to do that. So you definitely want to start. We think it's going to be less demand. Think about it that way. Less people are really going to want to take the SAT since it's not clear that it's needed. So we'll lower our spots to those spots we need. Go to www.weststate-eep. I feel like I didn't do that right. That's not right, isn't it, Quinn? .org, right? I think it's .org there.
Yeah, .org.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, listen in to me, guys. See and click the SAT prep banner at the page top. You can register for the SAT itself now, too. You go to www.collegeboard.com. Use the Outer County, Los Angeles County sites for your test again, because I'm noticing that people are acting like we're getting a lot of cases again when it's 1/20th as many as we're getting during Delta and the earlier COVID. They're acting like it's coming back and going to kill us all. Number one, it's not going to kill us all. It's mild, and the amount of cases, I saw we had 2,000 last week. There were 20,000 weekly during the mid part of the pandemic. That's why a lot of people think it's kind of over now. But in any event, Barbara Ferrer said it's not over, who's the health person in the county. She could order, a lockdown, but not a lockdown, or she could just say, that we're not going to allow any unnecessary activities, but that would never be true at the outer site. So I still recommend you registering for sites that are outer. Somebody was able to get the test at Washington High this last time. And that was the first time there was an SAT in Los Angeles in over 2 years. Just be careful to register for sites where we know we're going to have it, like Redondo Union High School, that's down in South Bay, like I say it wrong. Help me out, Sister Brandy. What's the high school of your student or your young lady? I forgot it. Los Alamitos.
Los Alamitos High School.
Los Alamitos.
Los Alamitos High School.
Yeah, Los Al, I think they're pretty reliable. Pick the sites that are further away, not the LAUSD inner Los Angeles sites, okay? Please remember that when you register for the test. Because I hate to see you get ready and then you can't take it. Let's see, who are the candidates to take the SAT? That's what I think somebody asked me earlier, and I'll go over it again. Very, very high GPA, 3.7 plus unweighted. So you're a candidate at that point. If you're lower than that, all right, okay, you can go ahead and take a shot at it, and that's good. Maybe you get a super high SAT score, and it will help your admission. But you remember, merit awards start at 3.7, and they base merit awards on both SAT and GPA, especially for Black schools, especially for those. There are some that give some mid-level awards at 3.5 and 3.6. I'd have to see your list. I mean, there's schools like Norfolk State, Tuskegee, that are giving merit awards at far lower. There's another one I always say here, I forgot who that is. Maybe it's Clark Atlanta, I'm not sure, that you can have 3.5 and get a pretty decent merit award. The ACT is going to be 20 plus for composite or SATs of 960 or above. I should have said PSAT, right? And preliminary ACT. High student debt, if you're okay with that, it's not an issue. Paying $20,000 to $35,000. So maybe you're going to go for the SAT score, and taking a little debt's okay with you. Maybe if it's not as much, you'll go with it. Then that makes the student a candidate for the SAT as well. Considering, suppose you don't have the GPA, but you can get in, all right, because of your SAT score. But it's going to cost you a little more, and that's what that last bullet's about. If you're considering private colleges away from California, definitely, including HBCU or traditionally Black colleges, which are really state schools, that's okay though, then you should take the SAT. And again, a lot of you have took the SAT prep from me. I've gone through these tests, and that's why this check here, and that's why I thought it was good for them to take the prep. Application support is close and very good. So if you're getting good application support from somewhere, and I don't mean a counselor reading the essays here, that's not close support. We're close support, or you've bought a service. If you're getting good support, you get the most use out of that GPA, that SAT score. You get a good college list, and you get a good chance of getting in with a great essay. So close support's important. Again, just doing some essays in class or doing it in the summer and then sending them to someone is, you want to have a person who's involved, like Sister Brianna. I don't know if she's here anymore, and like me, and we're going to watch close and help those essays. Okay, let's do some alternate life development models that may not include four-year school initially anyway. Okay. 2-year college for 1 to 2 years, then 4-year college. There's no stigma on that. I mean, El Camino has a program called Project Success. That's why it's designed. I have 2 students that are in there this year from last year. Trade Tech College, LA City College. I'll tell you what we use them for in just a minute. These are great transfer programs and matriculation agreements with schools. I think all 3 of them have a great agreement with Grand Canyon and with Boise State, for example. Great for parallel career training while progressing to a 4-year degree. Alternate career development models, part 2. Some careers and skills you should learn in parallel with your 4-year degree. That would be great to augment your degree, to go along with your degree. That's smart to do right now. The more you can learn to do on the side, the more you're going to be able to take care of yourself in the future. There are CNA certifications, which is a certified nursing assistant, which is why I tell students, if you want to be a nurse, Go be a nurse. There's a shortage of CNAs. I mean, you're going to be an LPN, you got to get that experience as a CNA anyway. And don't you think you'd be a better RN if you've been a CNA and LVN? Video production, Spanish fluency, health science careers, air conditioning, website development, computer coding. These are the really big ones right now. For CNA certification, we like H&R Healthcare. They're here in Westchester, part of LA. They're very low cost provider. They're getting grants, so they're able to offer it lower. They can get that CNA done in 8 to 12 months, 2 summers, if you look at it that way. Video production, we like West LA College and LA City College to get a certification in video production while you're taking your 4-year degree. You can, in the summer, chip away at that certification. Certifications are really the way to go now. Spanish fluency, we have a great partner that can help you with that. I consider that a career and job skill now, that to be able to speak Spanish. Health science careers, we like Charles Drew University, our partner. They have terrific health science careers to get you ready for radiology and physical therapy. And these are all great 4-year degrees that specialize in health science. Physician assistant, that's a big one at Charles Drew, physician assistant. And after that, you can go to medical school, right? You can start working and making some money. And while you're doing that, you can go to medical school in the evening. Air conditioning certifications, we like trade tech, and there's a few others. Website development and computer coding. El Camino has a great program in those. I've had students that have taken all these programs and are working in these areas. I could have included plumbing. Plumbing is a huge certification area, by the way, for students that want to get into mechanical engineering or something like that in their 4-year degree. You can go out and start your career making some money doing something else. Okay? These are alternate career development models. Let's talk about the CSU process in a lot more detail now. We're about halfway done. This is good stuff. Any questions out there? Are we okay? I assume we're all right.
No questions.
All right, very good. Where do the CSUs fit in? Well, the state of California public universities, college universities, per the higher education plan for the state. This is in the state law, by the way. 2-year colleges, there's 112 of them now, are for all students, transfer degrees for CSU and UC from those. They also do career work, as you saw a moment ago. The University of California 9 campuses is for the top 10% of students in your high school. The top 10% GPAs, now we don't have SAT, top 10% GPAs are eligible for UC. It doesn't mean they'll all get in. It used to mean they would. Now it means they're eligible. Because remember, they got to include, remember they all have the SAT scores to move students out of the top 10%. California State Universities are 23 campuses. They'll take the top 33 to 40% of students. Now remember, these are averages, okay? So really there's some UCs that only took 3% of the students in your high school. I'm thinking of Berkeley, UCLA, San Diego, Santa Barbara are the most selective UCs. Then UCs like UC Davis are maybe around 10%. Then UCs like UC Santa Cruz and Merced are more like 20% of high school students at your high school. California State's the same way. We have some individual CSUs that are more selective than any UC. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, okay? But there's some CSUs that are very selective. And I think CSU gets an unfair rap as being a college that is like, they'll say it's like a lesser college or it's somehow not as good. I don't think that's true at all. And in fact, I bet Sister Brandy agrees. I bet.
Long Beach State, 49er all day, every day.
Hello. I bet Christina agrees. I bet Christina.
I heard that.
Yeah, I know. Where you go? We'll tell them where you went to college.
Oh, Dominguez.
There you go. I mean, it is what it is. I know Quinn agrees. I mean, she's a 49er just like Sister Brandy. All right, okay. So I don't know where that came from. These counselors telling kids that they're lesser, they're not as good is not appropriate. I don't think at all for them to say that. Yeah, I totally agree. It's not right. Northern California, let's look at them by where they are. By the way, I put an asterisk beside the non-urban CSUs. Hey, by the way, Christina, this is that part of the presentation. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Pretty
you're gonna do it.
soon.
You're gonna do it in the fall. Maybe I'll make you put it on videotape first.
Pretty soon.
Anyway, Chico State, CSU Chico, and Humboldt State. By the way, I have the official state names of the schools. I think there's one I didn't change yet. I'll tell you. I really like to say the names of the schools correctly. We say them wrong so many times. Here's the San Francisco Bay Area CSUs. San Francisco State, San Jose State, and CSU Sacramento, you can now officially call it Sacramento State. It is now Sacramento. I had to change this view graph. Sonoma State, CSU Maritime, and CSU East Bay are all the San Francisco area CSUs. Central California, we have CSU Fresno, which they're not really Fresno State, though we say it. CSU Stanislaus has been changed. It's Stanislaus State now. CSU Monterey Bay, CSU San Luis Obispo, or called Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and then CSU Channel Island. By the way, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is the most selective public university in the nation. It is very, very, very selective. We have 3 CSUs that are quite selective. That's one of them. Los Angeles area CSUs. CSU Los Angeles, Dominguez Hills, San Bernardino, Long Beach. I know we always say Long Beach State, but really it's CSU Long Beach. Northridge, Bakersfield, Poly Pomona, and Fullerton. Fullerton is another quite selective CSU. Long Beach is one of the 3 most selective CSUs. So Long Beach, Fullerton, and San Luis Obispo, they're very selective. We'll have a lot more to say about that. And remember, the ones of aspects are not considered urban. Although I don't know, Bakersfield, there's 400,000 people there. Southern California CSU, South California CSU, as I call it. San Diego State, which is the other extremely selective CSU. But I think you can see why, right? There's only 2 CSUs near San Diego. So wouldn't it figure that San Diego State's become very selective over time? And it is. Because CSUs will admit their area students first. I have a lot more to say about that in a minute. CSU San Marcos. These are all the CSUs. There's 23 of them. All right. I want to make sure I pointed that out. What does it take to get into CSU? Well, it takes a GPA of 2.5 minimum for non-impacted CSUs. So there's that term, non-impacted. So impacted, you're going to see in a moment. It should say area impacted. CSUs admit from their local areas first, and then if there's seats left over, they admit. That's what's going on when we say a school is very impacted. It's area impaction we're talking about. There is 1 or 2 CSUs that don't impact by area, they impact a different way. But most of the time, that's the way they impact. Test scores, this is answering the question from earlier. Test scores will not be required nor accepted. They won't be accepted either. So they don't even look at the essay. If you send the scores, they won't see them. Remember, it's only the A through G subjects. Next page, we'll look at that. How is it computed? It's the cumulative UC-CSU GPA for 3 years of high school. That's how they compute the CSU UC GPA. And both of them use the same calculation. It's in a core of courses that are CSU approved. On the transcripts, here's what it's called. Academic GPA, university GPA, CSU UC GPA, or weighted GPA. If I could give homework, I would say for parents to become an expert on what all the GPAs of your student are. What's their UC CSU or their weighted, and what's their unweighted or total GPA is a good assignment. And students, yes. Yes?
No, I'm saying thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good assignment. I've been told never to give parents homework, so Bishop was joking with me one time about that years ago. So, but I think it's a good assignment to look at those transcripts and have a conversation with your student. On the application, classes that are in progress and planned will be reported. So when we're doing your application for you or you're doing it, there's nothing that makes it tricky. Classes that are in progress are the first semester, and if they're planned, they're in the second semester. They'll be reported on the transcript without a GPA because there's no grade yet. CSU needs to see that so they can suppose that you're going to have 4 years of English. That's really why they're asking for them. That's the one where you have to have 4 years. Let's talk about that right now. For math, what's CSU looking for? Well, there's what they're looking for and what they want to look for. Hint, hint. Algebra 1A and B, Algebra 2A and B, Geometry A-B, and 1 more year is recommended of, quote, math or quantitative reasoning. That means like if you have a computer science class, we have a business math class, those are all considered to be quantitative reasoning classes. There's other classes that can qualify too, or you just take a math. You can take advanced math like pre-calc or something like that. It's just about our calculus. That's fine too. But CSU really wants you to have the 4 years. They can't officially require, but some campuses that are impacted are now saying they're going to count that. They're going to look at that more. So remember, they don't have the SAT anymore to look at. English is 4 years or 8 semesters, a mixture of composition and literature. Okay? Some kind of a writing class, we think some kind of a writing class in 12th grade you need to take. We think like expository writing, or there's a class called that CSU gives the high schools on expository writing. We think those are all good things to take going into college. You should really have some college writing in your background. Laboratory sciences, we want a life science. CSU is looking for usually biology, or it could be marine biology if it has a lab, right? I'm trying to think of the other one people usually take. There's another one they like to take too, but mostly it's biology. Physical science, usually chemistry, but sometimes you see physics or general lab science, some kind of lab physical science is there. And we recommend 1 additional general or lab science to help make it a 3rd science. It's not part of the CSU requirement, but I think you really should, so you can get those out-of-state public universities that require mostly 3 years. History and social science, 2 full years, 4 semesters, 1 more year is recommended. Foreign language, 2 full years. We recommend 4 years of Spanish. If the grades are good, right? The grades allow for it, and if they want to move to fluency. And that's where we say we offer support for that too. We have a really good contractor that can help with that. The art is 1 full year of the same art. The elective is 2 semesters. 6 semesters, I recommend. Additional classes in the above can meet the requirement. So if you take 4 math classes, 1 of those could meet the elective requirement. All right, any questions on that? These are sometimes called the A through G requirements, because these paragraphs are paragraphs A through G of the requirement. They're not in order here, though. I think A is actually social studies, okay? They're not, or math is actually C, but you get the idea. These are paragraphs in the state requirements for high school for CSU. Okay.
Deacon Wilson, I'm gonna be here. I just won't be able to talk, but I can hear you.
Understood.
Just in case you ask me a question. Okay.
Understood, no problem. Let's talk about course validation. It's really misunderstood by these counselors, and I always try to cover it for my parents here. I think it's a commonly misunderstood concept. To be CSU eligible, students must get a C or above in each of the A through G courses that are self-reported on the CSU application, which are the courses in the previous page. So everybody understands that. Now, if they get a D or an F, either the subject must be validated for future coursework or made up in summer school or an approved online program like byu.edu. So let's talk about validation. Validation means that success, A, B, or C, in a future sequence or semester, A, B, or C, future sequence or semester, okay, of the course where there was a D or an F, validates or removes the D or F. So so it's only on certain classes. Which classes? The following course categories allow course validation. Lab physical science. So if you take chemistry and you get a D or an F first semester, if you get a C, B, or A in the second semester, you've met the chemistry requirement. Same thing true with math. If you get a D in Algebra 2 the first semester and you get a C or B the second semester, this is one where frequently counselors don't know about, then you've met the CSU requirement. And that student should just take advanced math for 1 semester for private schools to like them. But this is commonly misunderstood here. LOT is language other than English. I have an example here that will blow your mind. I think I have some examples here. I don't know. I should have. Summer school, 2-year college, and online coursework is the only makeup for the other courses. So if you have another category like biology, you got to make that course up. There's no validation on biology or life science. English, there's no validation. If you fail or get a D in English, next semester you get an A. You got to make up that first semester, okay? I hope that's clear. You might want to keep this and refer to it because counselors frequently overassign coursework. Here's some common examples that I see all the time that are course validation. Spanish 1A, the student gets a B. Spanish 1B, the student gets a D. Spanish 2A, the student gets a D. But then Spanish 2B, they get a C. They have met the foreign language requirement because that C validated the other 2 Ds. It was a later sequence. Boy, this really argues for getting tutoring if you're having trouble in a second semester, isn't it? French 3A and B, 3A, a student got a B. This was 3 years ago this happened. 3A, they got a B, and 3B, they got a C. Did you realize they met the CSU requirement for foreign language? They validated the first 2 years. Of course, that's not going to be possible except if you're French fluent, and this student was French fluent. Here's one that blows my mind, although I would never advise this student to not take more math. But anyway, this is a real life example I had a few years ago. I got to know the student their second year, not their first. Algebra 1A, they failed. Algebra 1B, they got a D. Algebra 2A, they got a C. Algebra 2B, they got a B. That validated the algebra, you understand? And then Geometry A, they got a D. Geometry B, they got an F. But then in pre-calculus, they got a C in the first semester. Then they dropped pre-calculus B. Do you realize they met the math requirement? Of course, I told that student they should take math in the summer, and they did. And they actually are doing well in college right now. Chemistry is what I talked about earlier. A student could get a D in chemistry a B in chemistry B, and they've met the CSU requirement for chemistry because it's a physical science course. The second semester validated the first. But look at this biology student. They got an F in biology A B in biology B, and the counselor told them they needed to make up that first semester because biology is not you can't validate biology. They took anatomy A and got a C, and they dropped science. They met the science requirement. Okay, hope that helps. Let's talk about area impaction. I think this will be of interest to you. Area impaction means that most CSUs will first admit students in their area, a high school, and then there are a few or very few spots remaining for additional students across the state. And that's why it requires a higher GPA to get in, because of supply and demand. You have to have higher grades to get in when there's fewer spots. There are a lot of spots, the grades can be lower. CSUs that are not impacted have many spaces for students across the state. They will probably admit students with a GPA minimum of 2.5. So we have quite a few, but we still have a few non-impacted schools. I'll talk about them in a minute. Here they are: Bakersfield, Dominguez, Channel Island, Stanislaus, San Francisco State, although they have limited and very high price housing. There's another school that's not on this list, and that's Humboldt State. They're no longer impacted, Humboldt State, okay? More on area impaction. CSUs that have admission histories of 2.7 to 3.1. Sacramento State, San Bernardino, Poly Pomona, for most majors in Monterey Bay. Now, notice it says for most majors. You'll hear me talk about it again in a minute, but CSU is the only CSU that does not impact at all by area. There's no area schools. They impact by majors. Depends on your major. That's how they impact. And Monterey Bay is in this group. The highest GPA CSUs, oh boy, CSU Poly SLO, San Diego State, Long Beach, Fullerton, Northridge, unless you're in an area school. If your high school is like Culver City High in their area, you have a chance. I love the example of Laces, because Laces is just to the east of La Cienega, which is the borderline for Northridge. So they go to CSU LA, right? CSU LA is the local school for LACES. Northridge, San Jose State, Fresno, CSU LA. Your GPA is going to have to be 3.4 to 4.2, unless your high school is in the area of that college. If the high school's in that area, it's going to be more toward the 2.5 that gets you in. This is how area impaction works, okay? San Diego State, for example, is very selective for students from LA. But a long time ago, about 5, maybe 6 years ago now, I was speaking in San Diego to the Army Navy High School. And I was talking to parents there at a parent night. And I realized that I had to tell them backwards, right? I had to tell them that San Diego State was their area school. They can get in for 2.5. And then somebody yelled from the back of the room, what if my student wants to go to LA? I said, you need to be 3.6. He was disappointed. This goes to show you that San Diego State is an everyday school to them, but to us, it's a dream for people to go down there, right? That gives you an idea of why we have area impaction. Remember, if your high school is in the area of any of these schools, then the admission GPA will be 2.5. The lone exception is Long Beach, where you got to be 2.8 for Long Beach area high schools. There's some other oddities of impaction. Sorry. CSU Poly-Pomona impacts by majors only. There's no area impaction. Now here goes CSUN. CSUN is a hybrid. It impacts by major, even for its area students. It's wrong there. So a student has to beat area impaction and major impaction. And there's some highly impacted majors at Northridge: TV, video production, business, athletic training, music. These are very, very selective programs at CSUN. Turns out that if you're in a CSUN area high school, you can get in very close to 2.5 though on any other major if it's not an impacted major. So CSUN's kind of a hybrid, right? It's trying to be major impacted for away students, but then for students in the area, they're not as impacted for major. All CSUs impact pre-nursing in some way, then nursing itself later on, okay? CSU Poly SLO is the most difficult to admit public university in the nation. How to beat impaction? You might wonder, well, how do I beat it? Well, have high enough grades and 1 to 2 AP or honors classes. You'll beat impaction. Sometimes we take too many of them, right? Know which CSUs are impacted and for which majors. You can Google impaction put your CSU, and you can see what majors are impacted. There are always a few majors at every school that are impacted. No, and the implication is just change your major, and then everything else I said was true here. Know which CSUs have which majors. There it is right there. Always apply to your high school's local CSU. Always get that application in to make sure, because things could change at home. You never know. You want to be sure you get in somewhere. Understand completely the difference between career and major. Please try to understand that. I'll be saying more about that in future sessions. And the other way you can beat impaction, just ask me. Ask me how you stand with impaction. I'll be glad to go over that with you. Why CSU? And any of these school categories I'll be covering in future sessions, I'll give you an idea of why you might do those particular schools. I think I'll do it next time for HBCU and private schools. California State University, CSU, students are accepted with GPAs of 2.5 or above. So you might be able to get into a CSU where you couldn't get into a college normally. Tuition is 11 to 15% of the cost of most, I think you should put most, selective private colleges. It's just 11% of what that would be. My favorite example is USC and Cal State Long Beach. The tuition for Cal State Long Beach is about $5,900 for a full year, okay? The tuition for USC is going to be, I think, $66,000 this year. So that's 10 times the cost of Long Beach. And I always like to say, do you think that USC is 10 times better than Long Beach? I don't think so at all, which is why we got to be careful about private colleges and the name of the colleges and all that. I know they're very prestigious, but I know people who are very successful from all kinds of colleges. It would surprise you. I have some of the most successful students went to Bakersfield. You know, I know you're surprised at that, but it's true. Nothing out of pocket for a local CSU. So you go to a local CSU, again, why CSU? There'll be practically nothing out of pocket. It's a little bit, really. It's not really totally nothing, but it's nothing worth discussing. CSUs are more ethnically diverse than any other schools, I think, if you pick certain ones of them. Students many times say they want to stay close to home. Again, this is why CSU. There are many types and sizes of CSUs. Why CSU? There are many types. Large, medium, small, 23 campuses in various settings. That's a good overview of why students have picked CSU in the past. How about application timelines and processes? Let's look at it. The application period for EEP is the 1st to the 20th. I could say the 31st, it's fine. There's the application website. The grades are self-reported. No essay required, no teacher recommendations required. Transcripts are not required unless specifically requested. We covered these earlier. The scores must be, this one about scores is invalid. I missed deleting it because scores are not required. Essay not required or read. They're totally ignored. So that bullet is wrong and I'll correct it in the final copy. Common reasons for non-admission or non-enrollment to a CSU. CSUs on the list that the student has are all impacted and the student's index or GPA is too low. Improper major versus CSU list. You didn't have a good understanding of that. So your list is wrong and that's why you didn't get in anywhere. Student does not regularly read emails. That's why we're going to be training students on how to follow up on their CSU applications. So if you don't regularly read your emails, you could miss something, they could disenroll you. Student does not properly set up their portals. This is why our training is important, to train students how to set up their portals using the initial emails from CSU. Grades are improperly self-reported. And remember, we mentioned that we're going to do it for students if you register them with our program. The A to G requirements are not met. We're not properly replacing grades, not properly replaced grades. That's a reason for students to not get enrollment to a CSU. All right, moving along. Believe it or not, this view graph is about the positives of CSU. That should be CSU UC, not USC. Oh, I gotta correct that. Positives of CSU UC, no test scores. So there's a positive to having no test scores. Students with GPAs of 2.5 to 2.8 can definitely make it into CSU if they pick a non-impacted CSU. It actually improves your chance for CSU. Many would normally have low SAT scores will have a chance to get in. And CSU, unlike UC, has created a lot of additional spots during the pandemic. Low PSAT GPA students should focus only on GPA, therefore. Why even worry about the SAT? Just focus on getting good grades. Note if parents are willing to take on larger debt than CSU for college, yes, the SAT is important. We talked about that earlier. Now here's the negatives. There are actually negatives for no test scores. I saw an article about MIT, and I guess they understand it. MIT, which is the well-known selective high-tech university in Massachusetts, Boston area, has decided to bring back the SAT because they found that it blocked them from getting minority students who had high SAT scores. They said they couldn't afford to lose any minority students. That's totally different thinking, isn't it? The kind of student that would want to go to that school is going to be prepared for the SAT and do well. 65% of our students would not have gotten into the desired CSU without the score they got. That was true for 2019, okay? Nearly 33% of our students got into CSU only due to SAT scores. They had GPAs of 2.2 to 2.5, but we were able to get them a high SAT score, relatively. These will need now to go to a 4-year college, a 2-year college, right? So if they get 2.4 and they would have gotten in before, they won't get in now because they're not reading the SAT scores. See, these are the negatives. This is sometimes people push for things in society. They don't understand the downside of some of these things. Even though CSU and UC will accept pass-fail for these semesters late in the year, it's not clear how previous Ds and Fs will be made up in the fall. This one's all about, they've claimed that last year, if you got any Ds or Fs, you could just use pass or fail last year or the year before because of the pandemic. But that caused a lot of people to not make up Ds and Fs from earlier years. And that's a negative. I had 2 students that missed CSU because of D's in their freshman year because they counted toward the A through G requirement. But when people say ninth grade doesn't count, it's not true. They're looking for those A through G classes in all college years.
So that is not true. They do it.
They do look at ninth grade because what if you fail algebra in ninth grade? You think they'll notice that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I don't know where that came from. I think it comes from the fact that the GPA is calculated based on 10th and 11th, right? So people think they don't have to worry about ninth. But where do you look for the A through G requirements? You look at it in all your grades. Local CSUs are nearly, what will CSU cost? First of all, if you go to a local CSU, it's nearly nothing out of pocket. So I want to say to students who are here, I don't know how many we have here, you are blessed and highly favored if your parents are even considering sending you away from college after seeing this view graph. Don't take it for granted that they have to send you away. I mean, $1,500 to $2,000 is the total cost for a full year. A full year, you're talking about $100 a month, 120, 130 a month for CSU Long Beach, Dominguez, Los Angeles. Of course, Poly Pomona, you're going to have a little driving. Fullerton, a lot of non-sustainable driving because of the traffic patterns. And Northridge, a lot of non-sustainable driving. But the point is, if you can go to one of those schools and commute, you can see it's only $1,500 to $2,000 for the full year because you're not paying for room and board. I just want you to see how blessed you are because you could do. So really, we don't have a college cost problem in the United States if you look at it that way, nor in California. And that's why when I hear politicians saying that, I get surprised. We should say there's a cost problem if you want to go to a private school out of state or a private school away from home, or maybe even a UC away from home or a CSU away from home. There's a little more of a cost challenge. But you can get an affordable school right here locally. I mean, I think a Pell Grant could cover that. For families,
let me ask the question before you go into the next slide about the cost. You're saying that it's only going to cost $1,500 to $2,000 for the year for tuition?
I don't know how to answer that. I'll just say that's what's left. That's what's left. So I'm going to say yes to your question.
That's not the case.
You want to bet?
I do want to bet. My daughter goes to CSU right now, and I pay more than that.
Wait. Is she on campus?
No.
Okay, ready? Is she taking out of
campus? She was on campus last year.
Okay, so then
I'm just going based on tuition. That's all. That's why the question I specifically asked you was tuition.
Yeah, okay, let's say it's $6,000, $6,500. It could be $7,000 because they have those student unique fees, right?
Correct.
Well, if they take out a student direct loan, they only have $1,000 left.
But see, that's not what you're putting out. So that's why I'm asking you the question. You're saying that it's only costing $1,500 to $2,000 for the full year.
Out of your pocket, not hers. She has a loan, so out of anybody's pocket. So if she takes the loan, it's still only $6,000.
Yeah, but if you don't, see, it's still a misrepresentation to me because you're not saying if you take out a loan. I mean, what if you don't want to take out a loan? So that's
a different issue. Oh, okay. So if you don't take out the loan, it's $6,500 to $7,000 a year, which is $500 a month.
Yeah. So that's. I just needed clarity for that and trying to figure out what you were indicating here, and that's why I'm asking the question.
But you know, that's way cheaper than being on a campus. Is the point of this graph? Because on the campus is another $14,000.
I know. We have one that stayed on campus last year, and she's gonna be home this year.
Right. There you go. So this is trying to encourage people to think about being at home. That's not the end. It's not the end of the world to be at home.
No, I didn't say that. I'm asking you about the slide and what you're trying to represent and the way to take this.
And it also shows that, in my mind, 92% of people take the direct loan.
And I mean, I don't know what people do, but to me, the way I was taking it, it was like, that's not the case. And you didn't imply that if you took the student loan, this is what's left out of pocket that you would have to pay. So this is
net out of pocket. Net, put the word net between nothing and out of pocket.
Okay.
The word net. So, and by the way, when people go away, they always take that direct loan because they can't, so much cost, which is what I don't like about our system. I don't think there should be any loans, but that's another whole subject. For families who make 45,000 or less, right? And this is true, including room and board and tuition. If they make 45,000 or less, it's 3,000 to 6,000 for 1 year. And that's the truth. That was true this year. It's always been true in the state of California, but they got to make less than 45,000, right? So that's the challenge with that one. Because most of my families make more than 45,000. I'd say like 90% of my parents do. For families who make 45,000 to 56,000, it's 6,000 to 10,000 for 1 year for CSU. Remember, tuition, room and board, and the so-called mandatory fees, they're called direct cost. And families that make 56,000 plus are going to pretty much pay up to the full amount for 1 year. And actually, that's up to about 22,000 now. I need to update these numbers. As families make more money, they pay more toward their CSU to be on the campus. And again, this family, it would be 6,000 if they were at home. They stay at home. The highest direct cost CSUs at $24,000 per year for room and board, direct costs, so it's room and board and everything. San Diego State, San Jose State, San Francisco State, CSU, Poly, that should be Poly, San Luis Obispo, CSU Fullerton, San Marcos, and Northridge. These are the more expensive CSUs. Let's see, I think the most expensive by far is San Francisco State. I think it's 26,000. San Diego State's right behind it. It's because the real estate they're on there, they actually had to pay for. And some CSUs like Long Beach, they're not listed there. I think it costed them it was some kind of a $5 arrangement, the city of Long Beach or some kind of, so they're not having to pay that capitalized cost. It's way cheaper. It's not on this list. What now? You can contact my team at WestA at eep.eep@gmail.com. And you can get a college readiness meeting. You bring your 3-year transcript, and the college list will be developed at the meeting. You request the forms. We have forms for a FAFSA data form for doing your FAFSA, CSU data form for doing the CSUs. And you can consider SAT prep if you want. We're open enrollment for the August 27th test. You need to contact me personally. There's my email address, etc. And on the next slide, have all the contact information for everyone. And again, if you click the link that we had in there, you can get a copy of this presentation, or just email me. I'll link you to it. And we will have the video of this presentation up as well. All right, let's see if there's any questions or comments or anything that we have to do here. Anyone? Is that it? I guess we kind of asked as we were going, right?
I do have a question about your
Yes.
SAT prep.
Yes.
I see that Christine is the coordinator, but who's actually teaching the class?
Jasiri Liggins, me, and Sierra Williams. We're all Princeton Review approved.